So you want to knit a pair of socks, but you're not quite sure if you've got the right experience and you want to know what it is you're gonna have to learn in order to do it. Hello and welcome to the Crimson Stitchery, a video channel about making all things beautiful and useful. My name is Anushka. You can find me elsewhere online as a Sour Telling, and links and show notes for this video are in the down bar here below on YouTube. This video covers what skills you need to knit socks, and it's coming in as part of my sock series of videos that are available on a playlist. If you click up there, and you'll get access to the playlist for those videos. So you want to knit a pair of socks, but you're not quite sure if you've got the right experience and you want to know what it is you're gonna have to learn in order to do it. So obviously people coming to knitting socks are going to be coming from a variety of experiences. You may be a completely new knitter, but you've mastered the knit stitch and socks is just really what you want to go for. Or maybe you're actually pretty experienced at other things. Maybe you've done a garment, maybe you've done other accessories, and it's time to tackle the next frontier of knitting, and that might be sock knitting. So let's get straight into it. When you cast on your sock, you'll need to learn how to do a very stretchy cast on that is going to expand and contract really nicely and have really great elasticity, retention, have really great memory, that is strong and that looks really, really neat. So a really nice stretchy cast on. And I will be doing a video on my favourite stretchy cast ons for sock knitting, so look out for that. Now obviously when you're knitting socks you need to be able to knit in the round because your feet are pretty sensitive. There's loads of nerve endings on your feet and you don't want to have any seams anywhere that are going to rub up and bother you throughout the day. I'm sure we all know what it's like to wear an ill-fitting pair of shoes and just always be conscious of something pinching or pulling, and it's the same thing with socks. You want to be able to knit in the round and create a tube of fabric that your leg is going to go into. So knitting in the round. Now the obvious thing with a sock is that it's not just a long straight tube, but in fact they have this L shaped, and that is because our feet also have that L shape, because our feet are connected to the rest of our legs through the ankle joint, and then we've got the heel obviously protruding out. So obviously creating the L shape, creating the heel is what has put a lot of people I know off sock knitting. For instance, I've been stopped by strangers while knitting in public, knitting on the tube in London when I used to go out, because I'm recording in lockdown in June 2020, we're still in lockdown. Yeah, I've been asked by complete strangers, like, isn't the heel the really hard part? What are you going to do when you get to the heel? And I've been like, no, the heel is the fun part. So what do you do in order to get the heels? So firstly, I'll just point out that there are absolutely loads of different ways to knit heels, but my personal preferred way is arguably the more complex way of creating a heel flap, a heel turn with a short row, and then a gusset, right? So let's just tackle that straight away. So the reason that I like doing this type of heel is because I have found from experience that the fact that it is more structured and a little bit more involved and a little bit more complex accurately mimics the complexity of the human body, because we are not tubes, and you know the shape of the foot isn't as simple as just a little addendum for the heel that's sort of punched on at the end. That's not really the body. You know, our feet and our legs are going through different planes, and I think that needs to be reflected in the knitting, and you can do that through this heel flap and gusset technique that I myself prefer. So in order to create the heel flap and gusset, what you need to do is work short rows, and basically all short rows is when instead of knitting all the way to the end of whatever row or round that you've been working on, you stop before you get to the end and you turn around and knit back the other way. So you're adding in an extra wedge of fabric, and doing that allows you to then change directions and go from the vertical knitting down the ankle, down the cuff, to the horizontal plane that is formed by the foot. So that's why I really like that. The heel flap and gusset method allows you to change direction. And also because it's got this gusset, now we think what a gusset is, it's basically a wodge of extra fabric that is shoved in. If you think about the gusset on a pair of knickers or yoga pants, it's an extra wodge of fabric that's going in between your legs to connect up your two legs and allow for all of the movement of the joints of your pelvis, of your thigh, in your thigh bone in your pelvis. And it's obviously it's exactly the same for a sock. We've got our foot, we've got our ankle bone, and we need to have that extra little bit of fabric to allow all of the anatomical movement, very natural and anatomical movement. So that's why I knit a gusset. So as well as the short rows, when you're knitting a heel flap and gusset, you'll need to learn how to pick up stitches. So picking up stitches. And whilst doing that, you also need to know about different types of increases and decreases. Specifically the fact that when you do an increase or a decrease, it's not just, flat. Just like your hands, it's falling in a particular direction, either in or out. When you're knitting socks, ideally you want to be mirroring your increases and decreases so that they look really great and really slick, and that the technical elements of the sock are mirrored all throughout the foot. Now, obviously, if you have a really well-written sock pattern that's, written by someone who really knows what they are talking about, then that will all be written into the pattern quite naturally. So knitting in the round, short rows, picking up stitches, mirrored increases and decreases. And the other thing that you need to learn to do is grafting. Now, again, just as there are tons of different ways to knit heels, that you can knit socks in just generally different directions in general. You can start at the cuff up here and go down, or you can do it the other way around and you can start at the toe here and go up. Now, I personally would recommend beginners to start at the cuff and go down, get the feel for the anatomy of sock knitting, and then start to experiment with other methods. Okay, so once you've got to the top and gone down, you're going to need to learn how to graft stitches together. And that is so, again, you can close the end of the sock and not have to have a seam that will rub up against your toe. So grafting using the Kitchener stitch. Now, if you are knitting a toe up sock, then you're going to need to do a special cast on as well, one which is going to allow you to cast on straight away in the round and be joined up, such as the Turkish cast on, or alternatively you could do a provisional cast on and then graft it together otherwise. So those are the main skills and techniques that you need to do in sock knitting. And to be honest with you, I don't think that it is that much. So obviously you can see from my sock designs that I've got going on here that I really enjoy knitting socks with a lot of texture, but you can very easily just do a very plain sock with no fancy stitch patterns and just focus on the particular elements of construction and fit, especially surrounding the heel and a little bit on the toe as well, and not have to worry about stitch patterns. But I'll be honest with you, my very first sock that I knit a really long time ago was actually a patterned sock, and it was written by a fantastic sock pattern writer, Cookie A. She was so big on the knitting scene about 10 years ago or so. So if you really want to knit a textured sock, and if you're very comfortable knitting lace and cables and anything else like that, then I would really just say go for it. So just to summarise, the technical skills that we've got on a cuff down sock are a stretchy cast on, ribbing, knitting in the round. To create a heel flap and gusset, you need to know how to do short rows to pick up stitches. You need to know how to do different types of increasing and decreasing in order to produce a mirrored effect. Then when you get to the bottom of the toe, you need to know how to graft stitches together using the Kitchener stitch. Now, the last skill and technique that you'll need to develop for sock knitting is something that really comes with practice and experience, and that is concerning fit and ease. So hand-knitted socks are really very different from short-bought socks, and they'll fit differently and they'll have different requirements. Namely that when you buy shop-bought socks, they are much, much smaller than your feet, and the socks that you buy are likely to have an extremely high lycra content, which allows them to have that extreme stretch and really grab onto your foot. But hand-knitted socks are different. You're going to need to work out exactly what sock measurements are going to fit for the individual requirements of your feet. Now, obviously, socks are stretchy. Knitted fabric in general is stretchy, and there's definitely a certain degree of leeway. But because socks do have that structure to them, you should be prepared that there will be a certain amount of trial and error at the beginning whilst you figure out exactly what the measurements, what the stitch counts, what the numbers are that will make you the perfectly fitting pair of socks. And obviously everybody's different, and how socks will fit on your particular body will differ. Also, because socks are going to behave differently on different bodies, you can kind of think of knitted fabric as almost being alive, especially on your feet, as the socks absorb some perspiration, some moisture, and also as you walk on them, they're going to be absorbing shock and impact. So the fabric is going to change as you wear them through time, and you will make all of those discoveries for yourself as you wear hand knitted socks. So I think that figuring out fit and ease is definitely up there on the techniques list, but the best way to learn how to do that is just to have a go, to wear the socks and monitor how things change and other requirements. Just by way of an example, I'll just briefly mention my own journey with fit and ease, because I consider myself to have quite big feet. They're very, very wide. I find it extremely difficult to buy shoes, like a complete nightmare. And also my feet have completely flat arches, which seems to be something that runs in the family. All of this kind of thing runs in the family. So it's sort of beyond my own control. And because I've always had it in my head that I had massive feet, the first probably 3 or 4 pairs of socks, so 8 individual socks that I made them way too big because I didn't understand the importance of negative ease in socks. They were just far too enormous. And also you just hear a lot of different stuff kind of bandied about online, and you hear a lot of things about fitting socks to people with high arches, but obviously having high arches is quite a desirable thing. I think it's quite a desirable bodily characteristic, so you don't often hear about how to fit socks to people with flat or fallen arches. So that's really why you just need to accept that, you know, our body is changing and it's up to us to make the garments to our requirements, as opposed to try to kind of force and fit our body into an external garment, like Cinderella's ugly sisters, who I have definitely compared myself to. Don't be the German version of Cinderella and her ugly sisters, where they cut off the toe and cut off the heel just so that it would fit in the slipper. Look it up. So that's everything from me now, outlining the skills and techniques that are used in sock knitting and incorporating a little bit more. What I'm interested in hearing is from any experienced sock knitters, do you have any secret or signature tips and tricks that you would offer to newbie sock knitters? Is there a particularly good stretchy cast on? Is there a great way of fitting different types of arches? If you've made a discovery that you're excited about and you'd like to share it with a newbie sock knitter, do post it in the comments down below. And to newbie sock knitters, I hope that this has been helpful. And what I'd really love to know from you is there any sock jargon that you've heard bandied about, any words or phrases or acronyms or techniques, and you just don't understand what it is that people are banging on about? I'd like to do a demystifying sock terminology video next, so I'd really appreciate hearing from you if there are some sock related words that you just are really unsure about and that you'd like me to clear up. If you've enjoyed this video, do give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe below. The Crimson Stitchery features a regular fortnightly podcast featuring everything that I've been making in knitting, sewing, crochet, mending and much, much more. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.